Hello, we're here and we're going to be going through our assignment work, all this code, and at the moment it's a massive block and we might be thinking, oh my goodness, what is going on? First thing we're going to be doing is breaking down our ID generator. Okay, so first thing we're going to be doing here is we're going to start declaring strings. Okay, do we remember what a string is? It is a string of characters. Okay, so I can say print, and in my print function I can put my commas in there, quotation marks in there. I could do a little greeting, so I could be saying hello, how are you? And we know, or Python knows, it's a string because we're using those quotation marks and it's turned it green. So if we give this a run, there we go, it's right there. And then what we can do next is we can go through and we can use a variable, okay, because having to type out the same thing over and over again, it's going to be really repetitive, it's going to be boring. Okay, so we're going to get a variable and I'm going to call my variable greeting, and then I'm going to be storing my string in this variable. Now, do we remember what a variable is? Okay, it's somewhere where we store our information. Okay, it's a type of storage. Think of it like a box. Okay, you can put something in the box, you can take it out. One key thing with our variable is it can only store one piece of data, one string at a time. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to print my greeting. Okay, and we're going to see what's going to happen when giving it a run, because we're always going to get errors. Errors is something you're always going to get with coding, and it's absolutely normal. So if we get rid of this part, because that's our first section, and that's what we can see there, and then the next bit we can see is we mentioned it again, and in here we should see again, hello, how are you? But we don't. For some reason, it's saying greeting. That's because Python thinks we're printing another string, and we can tell it's a string because of our quotation marks. So if we get rid of them, and we get rid of our original message, and we give this a save, and we give it a run, hello, how are you? So it's working just the way we want it. So to declare our variable, we give it a name and we store something in that name. Okay. Next thing that might happen is we might want to take a piece of information, an input from the user. Okay. So we're going to do that next. So I'm going to say input to let them know that, hey, Python, take this from the user. And this part is where we're going to give the message. So the message I'm going to ask them is, hello, please can you enter your first name? And then I'm going to try and print it, but something's happening. We know to declare our variable and call it properly. And we're going to get this message, but something might happen. Invalid. There's an error here, a syntax error, because I forgot a bracket. So we put this back and we give it a run. There we go. Second most common issue that we get, we just covered. Okay, so hello, please can you enter your first name? And I can put here Bob. And then it's going to say Bob back. Now, is this a great name for it? Greeting. What we're going to be storing in here, it's going to be their first name. So a good thing we can call it is, you guessed it, first name. And then there we have it. We got our first name. And if I want to add their second name, I can just copy and paste this and swap out second part. It's a second name. I'm just going to put surname. Okay, so hello, please can you enter your surname? Okay, and then we're going to print out the surname. So we'll give this a run. Hello, please enter your first name. I'm going to say Bob, and I'm going to say Green, and there we have it, Bob Green. Job done, right? Nope. Next bit, what we're going to do is we're going to work out how we could put both these names on the same line. At the moment they're separate. We got Bob and then we got Green. So there's a thing we can do to add them together, and the fancy word for it is concatenation. Okay, so if I put first name, add, and then surname, one thing we need to make sure we do is that it's spelled correctly. Okay, is this the same? Does it look right? I can copy and paste them to double check if I can't quite tell. And then when I give it a run now, I click OK. If I put Bob, and then I put Green, it's put Bob Green, and there we go. It's put it all on the same line. Now, do you have a space between your first and second name? We normally do. Okay, so I'm going to add a space in there, and to do that, I'm just going to add it like so. Put a string with a space in, and add it together, and if we give it a run now, there we have it, Bob Green. Okay. Next thing that we can try and do is we can have a look and have a think to ourselves. Okay. That's what we could do next. We can have a look at our string manipulation. Okay. So what's going to happen is when you have a set value and when you store it, it's going to start storing it at 0. So it's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3. If we look at this example here that we have, we can go through and we can see we got HELLO world. And what's happening is it's covering, it's storing all this information, and it's starting at 0. And if I try and print out hello world, it's going to output ORL. Okay, just make sure we get print that, and it will work. And it will just chop out, and it's going to get those 3 values: 7, 0, 8, 9, and then it stops just before the last one. It's going to chop out and take this, because in these brackets, that's what we're asking for. Okay, if we're going to make a random ID, we want to try to jumble it up a bit, make something random. So what we can do here is we can call it, instead of first name, surname, or we can give a little hello. Underneath here, I can call it ID name. I'm going to say equals first name, and then everyone's going to start at 0, and then we can say from 0 to 3. And what you can do is you can change the amount of values you want to chop away. So at this point, you could change this to a 7 or a 10, whatever you want. But bear in mind, the smaller the better. Okay. And I'm going to do it again for ID surname. I'm going to say equals to surname, and then in your brackets 0, 3. And then I want to print this out. I'm going to add them together. And then we can give it a run and let's see if it works. So Bob Green. Oh, there we go. We've got our full name. And here we can see it's chopped up a bit of the first bit. So BOB and then GRE. Okay. 0, 1, 2. 0, 1, 2, just like that. First 3 characters, 0, 1, 2, and then it stops before the third one. Okay, but what happens with our usernames if we have another Bob Green? They're going to have the same name. Okay, and that could be confusing. So what we might want to do next is give a random number at the end. And there's something that we mentioned in our P2 called libraries. And Python, it's really popular. It's got a ton of libraries. And what we'll have to do is import them. I'm going to import random because I want to get a random number. Okay. And the next thing that I can do is put in here random number. So I'm declaring a variable. I'm going to say it equals to random.randint. And I'm going to say I want it to start at 0. I want it to stop at 9999. I'm going to keep on going, 9999. Okay, and there we have it. What we can do then is give it a print. I'm going to put random number, and something's going to happen. Let's put this at the very top and let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so we don't need to do the rest of the work. We start off with this. So if we give this a run, what's going to happen? It's going to give us our random value. Okay, you might have an error where it might say this doesn't exist. So what you might have to do is just put random number equals 0, just to declare the variable. If you have that error, it might say it doesn't exist. But there we have it. It's working. So we've got a random number, we've got our generated ID name, and we're going to put them together. How do we do that? What we do, you guessed it, is we can put add, and we can just put in there random number, and then something else might happen. Another error. It says can only add a string to a string. We can't add a string in an integer. So there's two different data types here that we're trying to add together. Okay. And that is a string of characters, text, and a number. And an integer is a whole number, like 1, 2, and 3. Okay. It's not a floating number where decimal floats in the middle, like 1.1. Alright. So what you might have to do here is put str, and then in here you can put it in like so, and there you have it. Okay, and then when we give it a run now, we click OK, we say hello, please enter your first name, Bob Green, and there we have it. It's putting together our randomly generated number. So if there's 2 Bob Greens, they should have a random number to make it different. Okay, and there we have our first bit. What we can do is we can get rid of a bit of this if we want, that's not needed. Or we could try and do a greeting, so we could say hello, and then add Bob Green, and then I could say again at this side, welcome to my program. And there we have it. We could put a quote in there, we give it a run. And then we say first name, Bob, surname, Green. Hello Bob, welcome to my program. And there's the ID. And then what we might want to do is make sure that we store this. So what we can do next, copy and paste this bit, and we can say saved ID equals that. And then what we can do now to be even fancier is get rid of that printing line, and we can just say print saved ID, and we'll give it a save, and we give it another run, and if we put Bob Green, and it still works because we saved it in our variable and we printed it out. So if we want to use this in the future and store it to a list, which we're going to go back over, we've got it in our variable already. And there we have it with our first section.